All right, so that covers the drums, I think, pretty much. We have some stuff over here, though not that important. We have a snap, a clap thing from Typical Vengeance sample, I think. Yeah, and we have some reverse, some crash cymbals here. Nothing too fancy. We have a small drum fill here from also Vengeance pack, as far as I can tell. Well, that's pretty much it. Later on we have a little more like a drum build, and we have some additional drum fills here. That's different fills edited and like playing together to make this this funky fill before the last chorus drops. Let's see, it's going past the compressor. So that's how that sounds. Okay, next up, bass. Bass, there's no bass. Because the bass is actually in the original track. I'm using the original bass, and that's why I didn't EQ that much on the original track, because I actually found that the original bass worked great with the drums that I did. I started out trying to do a bass with I think a contract library, the Rickenbacker or the MM bass, and it was okay, but I felt it couldn't really work perfectly with the original. It would way better just to keep the original bass in, because with the new drums and everything, I think that there's plenty of bass. It really just works great and sounds good. So I ended up just keeping the original bass and not really doing anything to it, and that worked. So no bass here. Then we have some synths. In this group here we have some different stuff going on. This is a kind of 80s pad-ish synth from Massive. That's doing a small melody here, sounding like this. And we also have some Scarby, some keys here from Scarby. I think this is the A200. Looks like this, with a preset called Joe's Jam, with some extra reverb and delay on it. This is so cool. It's really like got this vintage vibe, a funky 70s sound. I think I need to mute this so you can hear it. Sounds like this. Together with the Massive, sounds like this. Okay, and this is obviously just something I made. It's a MIDI track, and basically what I did is just I figured out the melody and then just played this myself, like drew it in the MIDI sequencer, and just added that as one of my own elements to the original track. So it's kind of laying on top, like this. So I was stuck here in the limbo. Found that was quite cool, and again, this is to make this this production your own in some way, not just putting on a drum loop and a kick, and wow, and then you feel you remixed it. No, I find that it's more fun to do stuff like this. Even maybe most people don't even notice that you do this, but you know you've done it, and you can hear it, and that actually has some value as well. So I love doing subtle stuff like this. But this one is definitely noticeable. The Scarby that's doing this funky stuff. All right. Over by the final break before the last chorus is coming in, I did a kind of 80s vibe break, and this is Serum and the Massive again, and some extra massive pads doing their thing, and we have a piano from something called the Grandeur. It's a Contact library. Again, great piano. Love this one. So the break sounds like this in the original track. Of course, when I say the original track, I mean the production that I've done. It sounds like this when everything is playing together. But what I've added is the Serum is doing kind of an electrical piano. Sounds like this. This is so cool. And on top of that, we have the Massive that I already used, and then we have two pads doing low end, kind of sawish, high end, if you will, pad, and then a low bass one, and then the piano playing. And when everything plays together, it sounds like this. And again, this is just a melody done by MIDI, which is very similar to the Massive pad here. It's basically the same with a little bit of variation up top here. So they're just complementing each other really. Same with the piano. The MIDI looks like this. It's basically entirely the same. And that's how I did the break, where I pretty much added this melodic stuff to kind of make it stand out. And then the final chorus drops. And the only thing different here is we're playing with the Serum keys. Again here, they're playing like this. And also with the funky Scarby thing here. One thing that's also added is for the final piece here, just to make it stand out a little more, I added some strings, some high strings, just doing one note up top, just kind of get the feeling that this is the final chorus before it ends. This is also Contact, if I remember. Yeah, the session strings from the Contact complete package. Sorry, quite basic strings, I think here. Yeah. So that's how they sound. On my synth buses or bus group again in Cubase, there's not that much going on, to be honest. I think I left it pretty. I left it alone. I just cut off everything below 160 because the low end isn't something I wanted to use. Everything below or above about 14,000 is cut away, because up here we have a lot of drums and other stuff going on, and we don't really need the synths to be up here. So again, remove what you don't need. I think the only thing that I did was these two are not grouped into the synth bus because they are doing the low end, so they bypass the EQing I just did, and they are just pretty much left alone. I just took away the top and the low end. This is again we have here the very, very low, so we are removing what's up top, and the top one is the exact opposite. We're removing the low end and we're keeping it up, so that they're actually balanced out and work together as well, one sound pretty much. But they're bypassing the group here, so it's not being affected by this EQ. Again, this is a bit of me being lazy and things have to go fast, but it works. That is it, I think. I don't think I have a filter on the piano from Wave, just the one knob, just taking away some of the top. I'm not even automating it. And that's pretty much it, I think. Down here we have all the effects, you know, the usual stuff I'm not gonna go too deep into, but it's just a variety of impacts and sweeps. Not something fancy at all. I think most of it is just basic samples out of different Vengeance libraries. But that's pretty much it. Again, if we take a look at the original file here, I've basically cut and pasted a lot of stuff to make it my own, and taking stuff that I wanted to use and just repeated them again at the end here. This is a basic part of the original song just being cut up and repeated, so we can end it in a DJ friendly way that makes sense. So that's pretty much the production. Just here at the end, I'm gonna talk real fast about the mastering edit on it. If we go into the mix console here at the stereo output, we have a FabFilter EQ, and this is basically again just taking the entire production and removing stuff I know won't be needed. So the very, very low end, everything below 22 hertz, and everything above 18.5. This is sounds that you won't even probably be able to hear anyway, and speakers will have a real hard time actually reproducing sounds in these areas. So we don't need them, and there's no reason for the compressors to work with these frequencies. Normally I'll probably even go harder on this, but this is what made sense for this production, I guess. Then we have an OTT, upwards downwards compressor from Extra Records. This is a freeware. You can pick this up on their website for free. It's quite cool, I think. This is doing some compression on top and a little bit of mild compression low down. Probably less than I would do today. I'll probably do more today. Depth is pretty much the same as mix, so it's the mix level, and overall this is a cool thing. I would recommend you download this and use it. Then we have the Ozone. I'm still using the 5 because I just think it works great. I've never really found a reason to upgrade. I'm not using everything here. I'm using their multiband compressor and their stereo imaging and their maximizer, maximizer is also limiter, pretty much the same thing, it's just different words as far as I know. But the multiband compressor is doing different types of compression on 4 different bands of the entire spectrum. So we have different compression on the low end, different compression on the low mid, the mid and the highs. That's pretty much how I do. I do a little thing here. I'm not gonna try and explain it too much because I wouldn't be able to do it so it makes sense for newbies, I think. But if we play some of the track here, you can choose to see the gain reduction on the different bands here. You can see the compressor reacting, so I'm pretty much not compressing low end at all. Very little. It's not even, no, pretty much nothing. But low mid is getting some compression, and the mid is getting compression, and the high is getting some compression as well. And then we're doing a small amount of makeup gain as well to compensate for the compression. But you can choose to view this as a histogram. So it looks like this down here, and it makes it a bit easier to adjust the compressor for where it's actually needed. And that's pretty much how I go about it, with this one at least. And we have the stereo imaging, and I'm taking some stereo imaging away from the low band, obviously, as everything below 200 hertz shouldn't really be stereo, as I see it. So we're trying to narrow that down, and haven't done anything to the low mids. The mids is being widened just a little bit, and the highs is being widened somewhat, like 28%. Which is a good amount, but it's creating just a little bit wideness on top. Okay, let's see here if we can see the final elements. I have a Brainworks saturator on as well, just doing a bit of saturation to make sure the production sounds a little bit dirty and gritty. It's not a lot. It's very different how much I use these, but in the end, if you feel it sounds just a little bit too nice and clean, this is one way to perhaps dirty things up a little bit. So it's doing some mild saturation here. I think it's just a preset called gentle saturation, and then you can adjust the master drive and the master here, depending on how much you want. And at the end we have the fab filter limiter, which is just making sure nothing is peaking and clipping. And that's it basically. This is such a cool thing because you can see exactly what the limiter is doing and how it's reacting to to the input. So I love this limiter. All right, but that's basically it. I don't know if I've left something out that you would want to ask me. If so, please ask in the comments, and I will try to explain as good as I can. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening, and hopefully you can learn just a little bit of stuff from this one if you're starting out as a producer, and maybe I'll do some more. All right, thanks.